go ahead and call the meeting to order. Roll call, Jen.
Shelley Fayette,
Ginny Hutt.
Anita Matt, Sharma Gillen,
Yes, Kwasi Sukali.
Carol Langford, Len Tutis, Bing Matt, Ellie Bundy, Martin Charlo,
Present.
Mike Dawson,
I'm here.
James Steele Senior.
I'm here, Jen.
Would you lead us in prayer this morning, please?
Susan, we thank you, Creator, for all your blessings that you've given us over this past quarter. We thank you for bringing people here that are tuned into this meeting today. We thank you for watching over all those that are sick, and we ask you to get them well and protect our elders, our children, and our grandchildren. We ask you, Father, to watch over those that are in the armed services and protect them, and along with our veterans that served. We ask you, Father, to give those people that have lost loved ones just recently, give them the strength to deal with their losses and to be able to go on with their daily lives. We thank you, Creator, for all your blessings that you give us. We thank you for being here with this council today and to give the people their what we've done here in the last quarter to report to them. And also, we just ask for your blessings for everything we've done. Amen. And also, I'd like to ask Charmel to do the Lord's Prayer in Salish this morning to finish this up. Thank you.
Now, Lulst Masker Kulsi, as West Cookus Commensultum, Kuchelch to Lessie as us, as Tels for schooly fails to let us rate lost to Masker. Kerwits and yet to fall to Cas Yaptinum, Care could well to Care could will that's great loot and Pelé. Care could well to a could will to Pelé. Takak's question to take, Care could will to take, whom it's fair.
No. So this morning we'll have a flag song by the Buckshot Drum. Lamb lunch, Buckshot. Good way to start the day. So this is a time that we have set aside for the elders to speak. Do we have any elders in the audience that want to share? We'll start with the council updates. We'll start with you, Carol. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Good name. Always good to start the day with the drum. I don't have much of a report today. It's just moving along. Council's moving along. We just approved a budget. Within that budget, there were, this morning I got questioned about tribal council raises, and yeah, there were raises in the budget. And so I would ask that the chairwoman maybe schedule some kind of a budget report to the membership. Is that on the agenda today? On any changes within the budgets, increases and stuff, so the membership is aware of those things. And it has been a little bit tenuous, amongst council, but we have a job to do, and that's to work for the membership, and that's what we do. We stop the backfighting when it gets serious, and we get to business. And so we've done a few things, getting through the land ordinance and other things like that, and which is very important that our laws are updated. And so we've been working on those kind of things. I've also been involved with the Lake County Drug Court again, and we had 3 graduations, and we put a new step within the drug court. The step 5 is after graduation, you get back into the group and you help the new members that are just getting into the court to find their way around. And so I'm really pleased with what's going on with the drug court. And I want to applaud the tribal council for allowing the drug court to have a recovery house right down the road here that will house the women who are in drug court and that don't have a home, because that's usually the most serious part of anybody that's trying to get into recovery, is they don't have a roof over their head and they're couch surfing and they're staying in locations where it's not good. So council authorized Never Alone Recovery to use the house down the road, and so the women will have a place to stay. And I've noticed that they've cleaned the yard spotless. It looks pretty awesome. And then I've been inside, and they've done a lot of work inside to make it welcoming to women who are just getting into recovery. So just want to mention that. And then also I want to mention, I also serve on the Boys and Girls Club, and we have started a new place, a new Boys and Girls Club in St. Ignatius, in conjunction with the St. Ignatius School. And so I'm really glad to see that. That was one of our goals once we got the 2 Polson and Ronan funded, and we also got them totally paid off, or we're close on the last part of, it was I think a $8 million project. And we still got maybe a little bit on the gymnasium to pay, but otherwise those projects are totally paid in full. And so now it's time to expand like we told the council we would do. And now we're moving to Mission, along with the school, helping us with their ERAP funding, or SR2 funding. And so that's a big step for us, and we're really glad. We got a report yesterday from Eric that kids are starting to come in. And then also I was really proud of Anita for stepping up and saying that there was a location possibly in Dixon that we could use in a football field. So anyway, things like that are moving forward. And things that we really need. I mean, really, it's really needed for our kids, because our kids, you know, when their parents work, they're at home usually alone, and now they have a place to go. So anyway, Madam Chair, I'm sure there's a lot more that I should be sharing, but there's 10 of us or 9 of us that will be adding their parts. So hopefully I'm not signing off too early. Oh yeah, yesterday we did some legislative discussions, and we talked about some of our legislative priorities, and one of them, I know Tony, I've worked with forestry on going back to DC and looking for fuels funding. So, you know, that's always something that we need to keep on the forefront, is our legislative priorities, not only with the federal government, but with the state government, and that we can seek out programmatic money when it's needed in those areas. So anyway, thank you, Madam Chair and Council.
Lamb Lamps, Carol. Martin.
Right. So I guess kind of my update will kind of lead off of Carol's. One thing that Carol didn't mention about raises is that the pay scale that we implemented was across the board, the entire organization. Pretty much everyone in the org got a raise. So if people are gonna think that we just got one, I want to clarify that. In the sake of transparency, you know, starting off, you know, I was thinking a lot about where we're at right now compared to even last quarter. You know, going into the last quarterly, I think there was this build of excitement. We all wanted to get back to normal, and we truly let our guard down. Our numbers at the beginning of July for COVID were 0 cases. I believe as of yesterday, we had more than 400 in Lake County. We've had, I'm not even sure how many deaths, but just in the last week, I think we had 7 people die in Lake County. If you look at the numbers of those, at least 20 plus of those are tribal members from here. And so I think our rush to get back to normal really affected where we're at today. Our numbers keep growing. People are flipping about vaccines. They resist against masking. They present all kinds of reasons why they shouldn't mask or why they shouldn't get a vaccine. And really what it is that, you know, one of those things is not foolproof by itself. I was watching the news, and a public health person in the area was explaining, like, Swiss cheese. If you had 1 layer of Swiss cheese, things can get through that. That would be a mask. You add a vaccine to that, that's more layers of protection. You add proper hygiene, more layers. You avoid large crowds, more layers. Your ability to not get COVID goes up as you add layers to your protection. And, you know, we as an organization, we treat our employees very well. We, I know there was a time that we weren't able to give COLAs and raises because of our financial situation as an organization. But implementing pay scale hopefully will change that. There are built-in raises in that, and the incentives are, performance incentives are kind of in there as well. And so it's, you know, I consider it to be a privilege to work for this organization. And I feel like as an employee, there are certain responsibilities I have. As a tribal member, there are certain responsibilities I have. And those all tie back to protecting my fellow coworkers, my fellow tribal members, and we're going to hear from tribal health later today, and hopefully they'll have more impact than what I'm saying, because it feels like my voice is white noise to people, because I've been saying the same thing for the last almost 2 years now. You know, mask up, wash your hands, social distance. Now it's get vaccinated. And back to our great organization, you know, we employ the most people in this area. We probably pay well compared to other places for similar jobs. And it's a choice to work here, as it is a choice to get vaccinated. And for the sake of our tribal health, workers, let's help them out. You know, they are exhausted. They are working more hours than they probably have in their days. They're not getting rest. They're not getting what they truly need. And in order to help them, one simple thing, getting a vaccine, we could be through this. If we all in July would have all gotten vaccinated and all would have done our part and got our herd immunity up to 80%, our vaccination rates up to 80%, we would have a herd immunity, which means the spread wouldn't be as bad, which means the variants that are going to continue to come out won't come. And I know quarterly is supposed to be this happy, let's all, do well and everything, but the time of asking nicely, I think is starting to get to the point of life and death. I think we should start putting the names of our tribal members up on billboards of the people that we've lost. Our very important cultural leaders, our language people, the people that preserve our language. We've lost really important people. And that just doesn't seem to sink into people. I love sports, but if you're going to go to a sporting event where there's 25,000 people, maybe wear a mask, especially if you're not vaccinated. If you're going to go out and go to your kids' events, mask up. It's simple. The vaccine thing, back to our great organization. I'm getting calls from tribal members that are losing family members. I'm getting calls from employees that are afraid because they know people in their immediate office are not vaccinated. It's a choice to work here. And I'm going to, I made the commitment to a lot of people that I'm not going to quit this. And I think my next one is a vaccine mandate for tribal employees. And if, again, it's a choice. Is your choice to get the vaccine. If you so choose not to, then there may be repercussions. Maybe you can choose to work for a different organization. And I'm being this way because, I have an 84-year-old dad who I talk a lot about. And I almost lost him 20 years ago to a stroke. And that was his own doing. He's since then has made a lot of really important changes in his life. And he's an 84-year-old that's very healthy. But he's an 84-year-old that's healthy that has to stay home now because, we don't want to lose him. I spent the last year taking care of him. I don't think he left his house much of 2020. And he was just getting to the point of being able to go out and feeling comfortable. And, I had to be the one to tell him, no, Dad, you can't go to your grandson's school. You shouldn't be going to these things. You should just stay home, Dad. And that sucks. So the people that aren't vaccinating, are taking the freedom away from the rest of us and the freedom away from our elders and our immune compromised. And, you know, I try to use any platform I have to encourage people to mask up, to do the things. And it ultimately comes down to just being a good human. You know, this virus doesn't care what color you are, you know, where you come from. It attacks just as hard on everyone. And the people that are a little less fortunate, who don't have great health care, or who don't have the best health, who don't have, you know, a camper that they can isolate in, or another house they can isolate in, or they have multi-generational people in their household. It's ravaging homes and families, and it attacks everyone the same, but it affects our people much more proportionally than others. Back to the numbers of deaths. You know, 21 out of 50, you do that in combination with our population here on this reservation, those numbers are scary for our population. And we are doing a good job as a people. You know, so I guess this message is more to like the outside, or the people that are hesitant, you know, like, I don't know how much more blunt we can be, or I can be. And, you know, we've had people that have stood on their morals here and stood on things for things that I feel are just ridiculous in this time. You know, we wasted time on other things than focusing on COVID. And this is something I'll stand on. You know, you want to come and talk to me about what I'm saying today, please do. But I hope that will be something that may put a light in your head to like, hey, maybe I am not the best person right now. Maybe I am being selfish. And I just hope that, you know, maybe something I said today will strike someone out there, and we can start getting our numbers up. You know, the other thing that we can do to help, get tested. I had to go get a COVID test on Tuesday because I have a family member that has COVID, and, you know, to be healthy, I went for a walk with her. And ever since then, I've worried because I take care of my dad. So, you know, got tested. Thankfully, it came back negative. And I just hope that, you know, we don't have another year of this, but that's what we're looking at least another year. And I don't want to spend my entire time on council in my first term dealing with COVID. We have so many other things that we could be focusing on. But today the focus is COVID for me, and how to get it out of our community and how to protect our people. And I don't want to have another tribal member's family, you know, come to me and beg for us to do more. And so I'll continue to be diligent in this, no matter how exhausted I am, because I know that the nurses and the doctors and our healthcare workers aren't quitting. You know, our essential workers, they're still coming to work. And so I'll continue to do this, and I thank you guys for your time.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for all being here this morning. I thank Shot Drum for coming in and doing the flag song for us this morning, and it's good to hear that beat of that drum again. Been a while, you know, that you hear that, and it's good to hear that all whenever whenever that comes on, it's good to hear, listen to that, and I appreciate the people that do that, do those songs for us to be here with us. Martin, you know, I appreciate Martin for the work that he does with this COVID. I really do. Every week, he gives us a report on what's going on with this COVID issues. And it's a different story every week. He reports on this, and I commend him for the job that he's doing with this COVID. He didn't mention now it's starting to affect our children, our little children. You know, that's in Head Start programs and whatever else. You know, and that's what worries me is these little ones are starting to get sick. Our elders, you know, most of us got a shot, but we're still able to get it. Maybe not quite as bad, but we're able to get it. And it's hard to do. I heard on TV this morning before I come to work that they've got a pill now to help out with COVID. If you get COVID, they're going to give you a pill now to help you 5 days, 7 day supply, whatever it is, to help with the COVID symptoms that you have. And maybe that's a good deal. But you know, this COVID is getting to be a pain in the neck for everybody. And like Martin said, we hate to go through another year fighting this. But we don't know what we're going to do with our government here. If we're shut down or whatever we're going to do if it gets worse. And that's probably a possibility. But issues like this comes every day, every week. You know, and the reports we get from Martin here they're not good. You know, and our nurses, doctors are getting burnt out, and it's just now starting. They get calls 24 hours a day on this COVID issues. We had one young lady call us the other day and broke down on us and, you know, telling us about how she was working and everything else, you know, and it's hard to listen to things like that. When you have people like that come in and tell you what they're doing, and people are calling them in, you know, all the hours of the day and night. But you know, it's here again, and I guess we're going to have to, hopefully that we can get most of these people that haven't been vaccinated, a few more of them vaccinated. But I guess we'll just kind of have to go with the flow and see what happens. We've been working still on water compact issues with the legal department. They've been coming in and reporting on some of the issues that they've been dealing with and where they're going with the water compact. We still got a ways to go with that. Rhonda and Ryan comes in every day, every week, gives us a report on where they're at. And we got a ways to go yet, you know, with this compact. So down the road, hopefully we'll get everything squared away and it'll be over. Tom McDonald comes in, reports on the Bison range, what they're doing with the Bison range. Got the signs up, new signs up on the Bison range now. Reported that they had a real good summer. The visitors that they had there, and that's good news. You know, that we have people that's really interested in the Bison range. Lands. We've been purchasing some property that we're worried about others coming in from California or wherever they're going to come in and purchasing all this property, putting all these new homes in. that they have planned. I had word yesterday after we had a meeting yesterday on some property that we had a buy-sell agreement on, and that Netflix was interested in it. They got a call. The lady that sold this property got a call from them, and they were pretty upset that she sold the property to us. But that's what they were planning on doing, is putting condominiums and whatever else on that property. Well, we got to do this, protect our lands, keep our lands. I know in Arlee, up by the power grounds, 77 acres was sold. 70 homes are planned to be going in there. I said, in Arlee, I said, can you imagine that? That's going to be a little city. Been here all my life and pretty much knew everybody that's there. And now I don't hardly know anybody. But with these new homes like this being built, property being bought up, it's tough to see that happening in a little community like Arlee. Like Carol was talking about our legislative priorities yesterday, we dealt with that with Ryan. A lot of discussion was had on that, dialogue on different issues. It was good to go through that. And knowing what we still got to work on yet. Back in July, I attended an IBMP meeting down in Lapway. Bison, Hunt, and whatever, and with the Shoshone and Nez Perce and Umatilla tribes. Tom McDonald and John Harrison, myself, and McClure went down. There's still issues that we got to deal with, and with them, and we got new tribes coming in, the Crows, Blackfeet coming in, and they don't want to join the tribes that's in there now. They just want to go ahead and do their own thing, but hopefully, they'll get everybody on board, but it's going to be a hassle. But I got to give it to Tom McDonald credit, but he's really a scholar on that Bison management program. And it's good to be working with him. Forestry, we've been working on, Mike and I have been working with Forestry Department on a TUPS, temporary use, timber use policy with Tony Jr. over there, and finally got that all mapped out and approved, and worked on that for quite a while. So that's pretty much over. And I appreciate Tony for all his work that he done on that. And also the greenhouse employees that were honored here back last month for the job that they've done in planting and tree, whatever else they got to do that and growing them. And it's good to, we have one coming up here awards this afternoon or this morning with the greenhouse forestry people. And it was good to be at that little gathering we had up at the Quatoknik with the employees. And it was, all the work that they've done is really appreciated. And then these fires that just happened, there's a lot more work to be done yet. Forestry had a fire control, had quite the season. A lot of our land burned again. A lot of our primitive area burned again. But I got to commend those people for the job they done in putting these fires out, especially up there along the East Shore. Some homes were lost. Some properties, burned, gone. And it's hard to, just look at this and see what happened. We've got a field trip coming up here and going up there and look at it with your next week or so to see what the damages was up there. But you never know. You never know what's going to happen from one time to the next with these fires. Burning season starts, open burning season starts today, and it's still dry out there. You have to watch it when if you're gonna do some open burning, be careful. I told my wife, I said, we're not gonna burn until we get a little bit of snow or something, then we know it's not gonna go anywhere. Up where we live up there in the timber, that's pretty easy to start a fire and burn other homes up there, because there's some of that places of those home sites up there got a lot of timber, brush. Could get a heck of a fire going up there in that area. But I want to thank you people for coming joining us today, being on Zoom if you're there. I know we got a lot of issues you have to work on, and the year's coming up shortly. Election is going to be held coming up here in December. I hope everybody gets out to vote. But I want to welcome everybody here, and I want to thank everybody here. Garrett Drum again. I want to thank Charmel for doing our morning prayer in Salish. So thank you all.
Lunch being Ellie?
Thanks, Madam Chair and Council. Also, I'd like to thank the Drum for being here today and being in Charmel for the prayer. I'd also like to thank all of you here today and the membership for the privilege of being able to serve you in this way. I have a short presentation today. Just want to let you know that this month or the last quarter, I continue to present and help raise awareness for the MMIP issue, our missing and murdered Indigenous people. I've presented locally and nationally. And the good thing I would say is that the request for information isn't slowing down. I've been out a lot and people continue to request the information. So that's a good thing. I wanted to just share the numbers. As of Tuesday, we had a total of 206 missing persons in Montana. 59 of those have been identified as Indigenous, which is 28%. When I saw the numbers this month, I thought, oh, we're going down a little bit, because in August, early August, we had 209 missing, 66 of them were Indigenous. So those numbers went down a little bit. We were at 32% and then we were down to 28. But then in looking back at June of last year, we only had 37 missing Indigenous. Now we're at 59. So the percentages may seem to be going down, but we're dealing with a larger base. So the issue is still there. There's still just concerns. 39% of those that are missing this month have been identified as runaway. And so that's a topic that we're trying to deal with at the state task force level and try to get a better understanding of why that is and what we can do to help educate our youth better and to help them understand the vulnerable positions they're in when they run away, or maybe how they can help their friends if they are in a runaway status. I've also made it a personal goal to get into all of the high schools on the reservation this year to help educate and inform and to speak with kids to try to learn more about what that issue is with them. And so I'm trying to work on a presentation geared specifically to them that will keep their interest on maybe social media, safety, And that's a work in progress, so I'll update on that later, but just wanted to share those numbers and know that I'm continuing to do work on that front. I've also resumed district meetings in Mission, and those will be held the second Monday of every month. The first one, I had Tom McDonald, Dan McClure, Janet Camel, so huge thanks to them for being there. The next one will be October 11th, 6 p.m. in the community center, and I'm still working on those agenda items, but I'll be sure to get that out on social media and through email and other avenues when I have that firmed up. But again, thank you all for being here today, and thank you for the opportunity to serve. It's a privilege.
So Anita isn't here today, but she gave a report for me to read. Anita said, tribal membership, I want to apologize for not being able to attend today's quarterly meeting. Our family encountered a loss of a family friend of 40 years, and her funeral is today. I wanted to start by acknowledging our losses of membership and community since January 2021. As a fellow councilman said, with the pandemic, we haven't been able to attend all the funerals and show our respect and mourn our losses. I want to tell each of the families how truly sorry I am for their loss of loved ones. We completed revision of Ordinance 69C, now 69D. The Tribal Lands Ordinance is ready for public review. Cultural Waterways Ordinance was completed, and Probate Code is close to being completed. Most of the committees we serve on are virtual, but we continue to participate and represent CSKT. I continue to participate in the Homeless Committee, Budget Committee, Enrollment, Land Committee, Intertribal Agricultural Board, a Kipton Board, Tribal Conservation Issues, Grass-Fed Beef Meeting, Economic Development, Rocky Mountain Tribal Leaders Council COVID updates, shareholders meetings, department head meetings, economic, ANA workforce, water rights, National Bison Range, now Bison Range, and Simpson proposal meetings weekly with all Northwest tribes. Intertribal Ag Council is gearing up for the new Farm Bill. The Farm Bill Coalition is engaging with the Intertribal Ag Council, and they have hired Colby Duran to work with its organization in Washington, D.C. A quick shout out for producers that USDA Farm Service Agency will be implementing numerous disaster assistance programs due to drought. Please contact Lake County FSA at 676-2811. Again, I would like to thank the membership for their patience and support, the staff for their continued work and dedication, Madam Chair for her leadership, and all my colleagues for their dedication and continued collaboration to keep our membership and families safe. Programs and services were available. Our Dixon building is up and operational. We had our first Dixon district meeting on September 8th. We had about 20 attendees with 8 virtual attending the meeting. The Brownsfield cleanup in Dixon Post and Pole, Montana Rail Link, Flathead Indian Irrigation Project, water rights, and DHRD overview of programs were presented. Next meeting will be October 28th. This is my report. Thank you. Sharmal.
Madam Chair, Tribal Council, Tribal Membership, and Buckshot Drum. I certainly am missing many of our elders today that we always enjoy at these meetings, and I'm sorry that they're not able to be with us today, but they're definitely on our hearts. I'm sure each of you feel the same way. You know, I prepared just a couple of things to report, and then I just want to elaborate on a few other things that have been mentioned. You know, first of all, this pandemic environment just doesn't escape any of us. And I know that I myself have been really hypersensitive to many things. Any little symptom that could fall on the list, you know, you're paying attention to those things. And But those hypersensitivities definitely transcend into other areas of our emotions, raw nerves and fatigue and just things like that. And so, you know, everybody is affected by that. And I know that we all need to be extra forgiving and understanding during this time and kind to ourselves. And I think I've mentioned that many times in the past. You know, I just really encourage all of you to be kind to yourself in this time. It's really a tough time. We do things that at our best, but this environment is really difficult. I wanted to say that in spite of all of the challenges in this pandemic environment, I really do believe that we have accomplished so many things, so many positive things in the last couple of years, especially, you know, it's difficult, but our council and our employees, our people have really shown their strength and resilience and their determination to tackle things and stay focused. So I just really appreciate that. I believe I must have missed the budget meetings when we talked about increases, but nevertheless, I do know that, you know, it was something that I was concerned about when I first came on council, was the fact that we were in a more than 10-year pay freeze situation as a tribal government. So that's been a focal point that I'm really thankful that this council has remained focused on. And today is October 1st, so the first day of the next fiscal year. And it's a time that I hope we can all celebrate as an organization, that we have figured out a path to move forward without those constraints on people. And that's a constraint on our economy. That's goes against our goal for improving our economic forecasts here within the nation. So I really think it's an achievement that we should celebrate with one another. And, you know, as far as transparency, I've been thinking about this lately. I'm a big advocate for transparency. I think we all are. And, but it's easy to get confused sometimes and think that maybe transparency is visibility. And I think transparency is much more than that. And I do agree that we should have regular detailed budget reports about tribal council expenditures and that kind of information about salaries and you know, just how that money flows, because it's something that I know the tribal membership has always been curious about and would like to be better informed. So I do think that that is something that even I, as a council member, would like to see more of. We just don't get a lot of detailed information on a regular basis. So I, of course, am somebody who likes that. I have a background in accounting and finance and business. So I spend a lot of time reviewing and analyzing corporate financial reports. I do my best to try to share that analysis with my colleagues and help absorb that information. So that's something that I continue to work on. I also continue to try to be available for to hear tribal member concerns on issues impacting the people in our tribal government. I work on bringing those issues forward to seek out solutions and remedy at a policy level. Again, I feel like council members' job is largely as a policy maker. Individual needs are generally handled by department personnel through policy adopted by the tribal government. So I try to keep my focus in that level of policy. In August of this last quarter, of course, we all had to do our best to get through the fires that were ravaging our reservation, 2 major fires, and we appreciate all the work that was done by the personnel assigned to that. I was able to participate in helping to support the Boulder 2700 fire evacuees, and I just want to publicly thank Bob and Myrna Gochi for assisting with gathering the donation funds and contacting impacted evacuees for that fire. We also had an individual close to our community, John Paragoy, is the local director of the Red Cross, and they organized a shelter and provisions for all of the evacuees. And I just want to recognize him as well. There are many individuals within our tribal community, and our county and city community worked shoulder to shoulder to help in many ways. Each individual, whether it was their job or whether they were volunteers, deserves a mention for all that they did. And I wish that were possible to mention each of them by name. Today, we're able to recognize our own member for an exceptional part in that story. And it's great to have such a small and caring community. I also just want to report that with the Tribal Council's support and recommendation, I received an appointment to the City of Polson's Economic Development Council. We were invited by City Manager Ed Meese and City Planner Juan Escano that the Tribal Council could delegate someone to a permanent seat on their 7-member advisory council. And so that was just recently finalized by a city ordinance about a week ago. So I was notified that they would be scheduling a meeting for me to join up with their advisory council. And just so you're aware, some of the powers and duties of that council is to advise the city commission on economic development issues, review the implementation of the City of Polson's economic development plan, and provide related recommendations. There may be other duties assigned through the commission from time to time. And it also notes that the council is advisory only and shall not constitute policy, that the city may adopt any or all of the recommendations of the council with or without changes made by the city commission as city policy. So that's the most that I know about that advisory council right now. And I'll be looking forward to participating and bringing back reports to my colleagues and to the membership of the issues that are coming through the City of Polson that could be of interest. So I appreciate everybody's time and everybody taking the time to participate in the government today. Lem Lemsh.
Sharma. Mike?
Thank you, colleagues. It's always a pleasure to be here working with you. And thank you, Jerome. It's always good to hear you guys. That really sets a good tone. Definitely thank you to the membership. You've already heard a lot of what's happened over this quarter. I got a list of quite a few things, but I just wanted to share a story and thinking about this pandemic. I'm the representative from Camas Prairie and Hot Springs, and I have a commute of an hour every day. I drive over every day, drive back, and so I'm on the road a lot. And here about 5 months ago, I was driving along and passed a big semi, and crack, heard this loud crack. I thought somebody was shooting at me, but my windshield got hit by a rock from this semi, and it just, I thought the windshield probably was gone, but I actually stopped and looked, and perfect vision in front of me. And so I just continued, went on home. When I got home, I found out there was a spot about 3 inches in size just shattered right at the bottom of my windshield. And I didn't think a whole lot of it. The windshield was intact. I could still drive, and there wasn't anything, water or wind getting through it. So I was going along, just thinking I'll get that replaced here someday. Well, about 3 weeks ago, I got reminded of something. I was on my way over, and along about Charlotte, I saw a highway patrolman pull off right in town there, and I went by him and I looked in my mirror and I got lights going. He's flipping around and he pulls me over. And I'm going, wow, I follow the speed limits. I actually like to go fairly slow. My reaction time isn't what it used to be. So I had no clue what he was stopping me for. And I had the window rolled down. He came up right beside me and he pointed right at my windshield and he said, "That is awful." He didn't give me a ticket, but he said, "We have windshield laws in Montana." You know what that reminded me of? It reminded me that sometimes my choice isn't the most important thing out there. That the safety of our community and our folks throughout our community is something that they write laws about and that they impact our personal choices. And so as we go through this pandemic, I do hope that you'll realize that there is a time when our personal choice isn't as important as the safety of our family, safety of ourselves, safety of our community. And so as you go through your days, think about our elders, think about our children. Do everything you can to make them safe. And one of those things that is truly important right now is wearing a mask. And that's going to be my report this quarter.
Problem, Mike. Len,
Thank you, Shelley, member of the council and distinguished membership. First of all, let me start by saying I will make my report very short here. Many of the council people have mentioned some of the issues that I was going to bring up this morning, specifically COVID. COVID has been one of the most challenging issues that we've been facing. And I'm very fortunate that we've had a few council people really step up and getting that information out to the membership. So I appreciate that. I just also want to briefly mention that, due to one of the issues that council has been discussing is regarding our recreational lands. We've received numerous complaints from the membership about how they are getting pushed out and not able to utilize these areas that them and their families are accustomed to use every summer. So we're starting to have that discussion on how we're going to change policy addressing that. One of them is we wanted to increase the game warden staff is one of the goals, and then identifying certain areas that are for use for the, and also one of the options that has been come out from the membership is just to completely close tribal lands down to non-members for recreational use. So, and that's going to be that's going to be some important discussion that we have here. And I certainly hope to see that we move on this fairly certain because of the large influx of people that have been moving on the reservation. And because of the large influx of people, tribal council have been putting in a unique situation to start aggressively purchasing properties. As Bing mentioned, we recently are closing on a parcel of land between Ravalli and Dixon, and it's a vital piece of property that the tribes need to own. And the other parcel of land is a Whiskey Trail Ranch. We are closing on a buy-sell. I don't want to say closing on a buy-sell, but we're still working on a buy-sell agreement on that. So we're getting closer to owning that ranch, which is another vital piece to the tribes. And also, I just want to briefly mention how many of our corporations have stepped up. Specifically SNK Gaming, who just recently expanded gaming to the Big Arm Resort. That was a huge endeavor, and it's good to see more economic development up north. And also SNK Technologies, who continues to stay on track on keeping us keeping up the large dividends, I should say. That really is very helpful to the tribal organization. And EKI has really stepped up its game and gone into the trading market. And now we are currently we're very successful in the trading market with EKI. So as we move forward with our district meetings, we'll start having them folks report back to the membership on how well they really are doing. And so with that said, I'm going to wrap it up there, and just want to thank all of the membership. I want to thank the drum, everybody that's joined us this morning, because these meetings are always the ones that keep us on track and always reminding us who we work for, because it is an honor to work for the CSKT people. And I will continue to do what I'm doing on helping those people that are struggling. So once again, thank you all, and you guys all have a good day. Bye.
Much, Len. So, oops. So council has gone through some planning sessions. We had one in July at Salish Kootenai Technologies up in Polson. And in that one day, we came up with 7 initiatives that we wanted our staff to work on. One was homelessness, eradicating homelessness. One was eradicating addiction. And in all of these, we've set up task forces of staff members to work on these. A third one was to become food secure. Fourth one was to deal with mental health issues for our tribal members. The fifth one was to create jobs or learning opportunities for every tribal member that wants to work. Maybe not everybody wants a 9-to-5 job. Maybe they just want to do day labor or something, or seasonal work. The sixth one was language and culture, and the 7th one was to support individual tribal member entrepreneurs, which we know will create a healthy economy overall. So we had 2 more to work on. One was the a lands resolution, and that was very comprehensive. We had a 3-hour discussion on Monday to formalize that. And then we're working this coming Monday on one for elders. And basically we brainstorm and we figure out what our goal is, what our strategy is, and our timeline. During that first meeting in Polson, we also watched a innovative housing webinar that the Ho-Chunk Nation explained what they did. So Ho-Chunk Inc. is a separate economic development entity. It's actually an LLC, a limited liability corporation. It's separate from their housing authority. And they built a retail residential space with family housing, elders homes, and singles apartment living. And in that retail space, they had, I think, a convenience store and a farmer's market, and there were other things they were developing. Well, when I went to the RES conference, which is the Economic Development Conference in Las Vegas, I met a Ho-Chunk couple that received $87,000 in down payment assistance for their 4-bedroom home in this complex. So I thought that was pretty cool. I did attend the RES 2021 conference in Las Vegas. It's like the economic development business conference in Indian country. I've always wanted to go to that, you know, having a business degree, but I've never been able to. Well, this year I got asked to serve on a panel, so I was able to go. While I was there, I got invited to meet with Vice President Kamala Harris and Secretary Deb Haaland the next week to, I was one of 5 people from Indian country who got to have a roundtable with them on Native American voting rights. And that was a really awesome experience. In August is when our fires broke out, and we sat in several fire briefings, community meetings, cooperators meetings, and then the bear meetings, which helps us with restoring those burned areas. So we're on the tail end of that process right now. I think someone mentioned earlier, we have a field trip to the Boulder fire in the next couple weeks. And as far as the Crooks fire in the South Fork is open now. There's just one section between Belmore Burn and White Horse Lake that's still shut down. So I know quite a few hunters have enjoyed that in this last week. Another thing I attended in August was a transboundary leaders meeting. So that's a lot of tribal nations from Alaska and Canadian First Nations, and then us, mostly border states or border tribes on this side of the medicine line. We talk a lot about the mining activities up north and how it affects our waters, because it does, and it affects our fish and our cultural resources that we depend on. So a really important group to stay involved with. I also serve on the Montana State Tribal Economic Development Commission, and our longtime president, Sean Reelbird from Crow, stepped down, and I was elected chair of that commission. We really refocused. We went through a strategic planning process, and we refocused our mission, which was, that commission was actually established by legislation in 1999. So we're revisiting that and staying focused. One thing that is happening, we're working with the Native American Development Corporation, which is a economic development corporation out of Billings. Leonard Smith heads up that group. And we're working with the STED Commission is working with NADC to develop a regional SEDS development strategy for tribes. So self-governance is one of the big groups that we're involved in. We were one of the first tribes to do self-governance back in the early 90s. And every year at their conference, they always ask what's going on with the Bison range, because they knew that we were long time trying to get another funding agreement with them. And then lo and behold, in our water compact, we actually got the land back. So they came out here and did, because this year's conference was virtual, they came out here and did a filming at the Bison range, and it didn't actually air at the conference. And it was kind of a funny story. Their editor was an intern, and he was also an intern for Spike Lee. And so he got busy on this Spike Lee project and wasn't able to edit the self-governance Bison range segment. And rather than have some rough footage, they said, well, we really want to give it the professional look that it deserves. And so because it's such an important part of self-governance, they said they would air it at a separate time. So moving on to September, schools are back in session. Tweagle River School started something really cool this year. And have an opening with all the students and staff and any guests that want to come through. And then on Thursday, they'll close with so they start and end each week with prayer, good wishes, shout outs, recognizing all the goodness that happens in that school. And I was able to attend that yesterday, and you know, they start with a song. They have a drum group over there, and Those students are so respectful and they all wear masks. And I only saw a couple of staff members that weren't wearing masks. So shout out to Two Eagle. Also in September, I signed 2 Class 7 certifications, one for Sierra Jefferson and one for Daniel Brown. And Class 7 certification means that they've tested through the Salish language culture committee and they're able to teach the language. So I know Sierra and Dan have been in that language apprentice program for quite a while and they put the work in to earn that. We had presentations with forestry and a company called Newfields, and we're discussing a carbon credit project. It hasn't gone to the elders yet though, so we can't really reveal anything about that. We need to get their blessing. Individually, I've been meeting with Bill Barron, Lake County Commissioner. Also, Ellie's been meeting with Steve Stanley, and Martin is setting up meetings with Gail Decker, also on the commission, to try to figure out projects that we can work on together as a tribe and a county. One thing that's happening this next week is we're working with the state so that the tribe can become an authorized agent for motor vehicle registration. So, you know, that could take about 6 months, but hopefully in the near future, tribal members can come here and actually get their vehicles licensed here. I've been involved with this group that's wanting to put together a Buffalo conference. We've done all the planning. We decided we're going to go virtual, and now we decided it's just going to be one panel, and that's going to be on October 7th. Tom McDonald is going to moderate that panel at the Native American Fish and Wildlife Service or Society conference. So there is a Zoom link available if people are interested in that. And basically that is to look at putting buffalo back on the ground out in the central Montana, possibly at the CMR or the American Prairie Reserve. It's by Fort Belknap anyway. So I've also been working with the Native American Rights Fund, and we've been attending all the Montana Redistricting Commission meetings. So there's 3 areas of redistricting after the census information came out in September. One is what our new representative boundaries are going to look like. So we decided that the boundaries that we're going to support is one that includes CSKT and Blackfeet, and then the other one would be the rest of Montana. So I believe that meeting is coming up in 2 weeks. Then the next thing we'll work on is the county, if there's any precincts that we need to redraw the lines on for that. So that's a work in progress. The Montana Redistricting Commission is an equal amount of Republicans and Democrats, but it's an independent commission, and those meetings are open to the public. Another thing that council has been working on is council roles. We've looked at trying to further define what our roles are. I also had a meeting with a group called Hatch, and several tribal entities participated in that, and it has to do with zero waste. So we're looking at solid waste, where our waste goes, how we can reduce it, and just how we as a tribe can kind of, you know, eventually reduce our carbon footprint. So another thing that just happened last week was CSKT always sponsors a tribal PIR day. Again, the conference had to be virtual this year. last week, some of us attended a national power meeting that was at Mission Valley Power. And one of the top officials from BIA, Jonna Blackhair, attended. And so we got to meet her, and she's directly under Daryl LeCount, who's the so the National Congress of American Indians conference is coming up October 7th through the 14th. It's all virtual. I got asked to do a 5-minute presentation after Vice President Harris they were both going to speak on voting rights. And then last week I got asked to serve on a panel with Senator Tester, Representative Sharice Davids, the chairman of the Hopi tribe, and myself to speak on Native American voting rights. If you don't know, there's an act out there, Native American Voting Rights Act, that we're trying to get approved in this Congress, this session. I also serve as a co-chair on the Lands and Natural Resource Committee, and that's where the NCAI resolutions are introduced and discussed in 3 separate committees and then voted on in the General Assembly. So CSKT is a member of the Rocky Mountain region, and Mark Pollock from the Blackfeet Nation is the delegate, and I serve as the alternate. This week we had a food sovereignty task force meeting I was able to sit in on, and we also met with, again, with BIA and Mission Valley Power. So one of the cool things that happened Tuesday, I got to honor the Montana 2022 Teacher of the Year, Bill Stockton. He's a science teacher from Arlee, and the tribe honored him with a blanket and an honor song. So that was really cool to see a small town teacher. And I guess this is the second time an Arlee teacher has won the Teacher of the Year. So Arlee's doing good things. I just wanted to give condolences to all those people that have lost family members, whether it's due to COVID or something else. I just lost my uncle, was more like my big brother last week. And, you know, I guess through that, I learned that, you know, we really need to be kind to one another. You never know what people are struggling with personally or in their job or in their family. So I just want to encourage everyone to take good care of yourself and do some positive things for yourself. I was able to participate in Salish Kootenai Housing Authorities. They had these events called Reza Palooza, and that was a really fun event in Arlee. The DJ Foreshadow and Vinnie Webster were able to bring their DJ equipment and let the little kids, you know, do a little karaoke and stuff. That was fun. The last thing I wanted to mention was behind the Arlee Community Center, there's kind of an old gravel pit, and we've been working on that for a few years now. And today, actually, we're installing dry meat racks down there. When Gray Wolf Casino rebuilt, they gave us their old canopy, like an entryway, and we set it up down there. Terry Tanner and his Wildland Rec crew set it up. And our dream was always to put some dry meat racks down there, because we're the only center that doesn't have a dry meat rack. You know, when there's a wake going on, we have to dry meat at our homes, and it's just kind of not the same. That's where people, you know, some people, that's what they do when there's service. So those dry meat racks are going in today. So go check it out. So that's all I have. Are going to shift gears to a tribal member honoring. And at this time, I would like to call up Gary Morshow. Yeah, if you just want to sit at there. Okay. So when the Boulder 2700 fire blew up August 1st in the middle of the night, like many others that night, Gary Marjo was awakened by a loud knock on his door. His neighbor's son and girlfriend ventured out into the water by canoe to view the fire and found themselves in churning waters. They were in danger and needed help. The fire impacted many lives that night as firefighters tried to hold their ground. A constant air attack pummeled the slopes with water. People who went to bed found themselves fleeing from their homes in the dark. The Red Cross set up shelters in Polson, and CSKT gathered tribal corporation donations and assisted numerous tribal citizens. There were images playing out into the evening, news, and social media, but you may not have heard the rescue story that played out that night with Gary Marjo. Gary was one of the residents who, along with his wife, watched the flames move toward them. A firefighter brought good news that they would be able to stay, so Gary and his wife Sue went to bed. Awakened by a knock on the door, Gary found his neighbors Mike and Joby Ash asking for help. Their son and his girlfriend ventured out on a canoe to look at the fire and found themselves in peril. The fire created its own weather, turning the lake into a churning cauldron with waves up to 8 feet high. Gary knew he had to try to help, as he was told the rescue boats were not able to find the two floating in the darkness. The other son of Mike and Joby Ash was keeping his brother on the phone and believed he could guide Gary to the right location. Mother Joby said her son now speaks of this near tragic night, describing the noise of crashing waves, roaring fire, and large peaks of waves being a major challenge to calling on the two rescue boats that passed them by in the night. Their hope was diminishing until Gary and their other son finally found them, using the cell phone flashlights as small beacons amid the chaos. Upon retrieving the couple, Gary knew his small boat was taking on water with little time before the engine would stop. Water crashed into his face as he motored towards the east shore. They were able to call the search and rescue boats and provide their location as Gary's boat died in the rough, deep lake waters. In perfect time, the rescue boat found them and took all 4 individuals aboard. As the 4 departed Gary's small boat, the wave action and jumping force from the occupants departing left the boat capsized. Gary himself was then pulled from the lake as his boat toppled over top of him. Today, Gary and his wife Sue are alive, along with their neighbors Mike and Joby Ash and their 2 sons. Joby is a member of CSKT living in Michigan. Her 2 sons are Navy veterans. Gary and Sue were ultimately evacuated and later returned to their home, which was unharmed by the fantastic work of the firefighters. Their trust land above Highway 35 was burned, losing timber resources. They have lost their boat as a result of this heroic rescue effort. Gary said he would do it again, knowing lives were at risk. So on behalf of the Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribes, we would like to recognize and honor our CSKT elder member, Mr. Gary Marjo, for heroic acts described herein today. We thank him for caring for his neighbors and acting swiftly. We believe the heart and soul of the Salish, Kootenai, and Kalispel people are displayed by Gary's bravery out of concern for his fellow human being. Thus, we present him with this blanket and a financial gift from the CSKT Boulder 2700 donation fund. So, how much, Gary? There's a microphone over there. Or here you go, Mike.
It's like I said, I'm not much of a public speaker, but I do appreciate what the tribe is doing here for me. It was odd summer for us, starting that night, July 31st. When people knock on my door and explain to me the situation, I had no choice. We had to go out and see if we could find them. I really didn't think we could find them. It was pitch black. We couldn't see anything. But we did. We were lucky. They were lucky. And I guess you could say everything turned out all right, except my boat was upside down in the lake. So in here today, the tribal council also has an ability to do something that's life and death. It's been mentioned a couple of times. I would suggest and support that the tribal council do require all employees to be vaccinated. We can save lives. You can save lives that way. You have the ability to do that. Thank you.
So much, Gary. And now we're gonna have an honor song from Buckshot.
Hey!
I would just like to acknowledge Gary Morzo too. I remember when he was hired for our tribal health director. And I tell you, today you're still out there working hard, you know, trying to take care of our people. And I tell you, it takes a lot for somebody to stand up and say, everybody within the tribal government needs to get a shot. And I think that's critically important. And I hope the council takes it into strong consideration, because that's how we're going to get to save people's lives. So thank you, Gary. I just wanted to acknowledge you as the former tribal health director. Thank you.
I also wanted to thank Charmel for her efforts with the Red Cross and gathering those donations from our corporation. So we were able to help a lot of tribal members. So, and thank you again, Gary, for your bravery and heroism. So at this time, we have another award to present. And I'll let present. This award is the in recognition of tribal forestry for their stewardship efforts. And how this came about was we had a request from Hecla Mining to Hecla Mining honored our tribal forestry and greenhouse employees for the work that they did in reclaiming the Hecla Mine project. And this was the first time that I remember that we've honored our greenhouse employees. So with that, I'm going to read off the names of some of the of the greenhouse employees that are under the direction of Tony Incashola Jr. Crystal Grant, Sonia Flamand, Tim Matt, Renee Pierre, Mike McCrae, Lenny Carlson, Andrew Barnaby, Charlene Charlo, Kenneth Oldperson Jr., Linda Molitor, Michael Joe Matt, Leonard Grenier, Lauren Hernandez, Terrence Ashley, Julie McDonald, James Lozo, Matthew Ogden, and Dave Burton. So these are some of the greenhouse employees, and you know, the stewardship award. If you think about the definition of stewardship, it means taking care of. So we really appreciate tribal greenhouse employees and forestry for taking care of the land, and in a lot of places restoring the lands to what they were before. So Lamps, tribal forestry greenhouse employees, and we will have another honor song from Buckshot Drum. Lamps.
Yeah.
again, Tony, James, and Terrence. Thank you for your leadership.
I just want to say thank you, council. I couldn't think of a better group than this greenhouse crew to get the first stewardship award for CSKT. The time and effort they put into restoring the lands is unbelievable. The knowledge they bring, the teamwork, and just the dedication it takes to grow hundreds of different native plants and to restore our lands back to native, not only our lands, but all the lands within the region so far to back to native plants, native species, native function. Thank you.
So much. We still have lunch, so don't run off. Lamb lunch, buckshot. So let's take a quick break and we'll come back for our tribal health staff COVID crisis update. we'll go ahead and call the meeting back to order. Next up, we have tribal health.
Tammy's on. Tammy Matt is on. She's on there.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Tammy.
Okay. Okay. So just to give you a little update on kind of what's going on in our COVID world. We, as of last night, 10 o'clock last night, we had 438 active cases within Lake County and CSKT. We have 187 of those are tribal, under tribal jurisdiction. So whether they're CSKT or another tribe, but they are fall under tribal health jurisdiction. We have 103 of the 438 cases are between the ages of 0 and 18. We currently have 18 patients in the hospital. 8 of those are tribal members. 17 of the 18 are unvaccinated. The age ranges are all over the board. We do have 1 child under the age of 10 that's hospitalized. We have 1 between the ages of 20 and 30, 1 between 31 and 40, 4 that are between 51 and 59, 3 that are between 61 and 69, 5 that are 71 to 79, 2 between 81 and 89, and 1 that's over 90. We are up to 54 deaths between Lake County and CSKT. 24 of those have identified as American Indian or Alaska Native, and 22 of those are CSKT members or descendants. We have, in the last week, we've been hit really hard. We have had 7 deaths in the last week, and 2 of those were tribal members. We are, working as hard as we can to try to slow this pandemic down and slow the spread of this disease down. We're continuing to ask people to get vaccinated, to wear your mask, to social distance, keep your groups small, practice good hand hygiene. We've been doing a lot of pop-up testing around the community, and trying to target the communities that have had, large spikes in their cases. And so we have had, we've done testing in Arlee on 3 different days. We've done testing in Ronan, in Elmo, in Polson. And this is in addition to our SKC testing site that we have. In the last 3 weeks, we have done 463 tests at our testing events and have identified 61 confirmed positives from the state. We've got, a lot going on. Locally, our hospitals are full. They have very little bed availability. It's, as I have mentioned in council, to council before, this is not the time to get injured or get sick for something that's not COVID related, because the chance of having a bed available if you need it, it's probably not going to be there. We've got our larger hospitals in Missoula are on divert status almost all the time, which means that they are not able to take critically ill patients in and are having to send them out to outside hospitals. We have the hospital in Helena, St. Pete's, is on critical care standards. And what that means is that they are basically deciding who gets health care. So if you have a good chance of survival, you will receive health care. If you have a lot of underlying medical conditions and they don't think you have a good chance of survival, then you probably are not going to be the one to receive the care. Both hospitals in Missoula, St. Pat's and Community, have, stressed the importance that, we need to increase the vaccinations because they are very close to having to implement critical care standards. And, we don't want to do that. We don't want to see that happen anywhere. The whole state of Idaho is operating under critical care standards. And, a lot of the hospitals in the state of Washington are also having to move to that. There just is no bed availability. And so we have a lot of our patients that need to be in the ICU that are being flown to Billings or to Great Falls, or, just anywhere that they can find a bed for them. So we really need to step up. And, we've been in this fight for a long time. And I know people have, are tired of COVID. They're tired of hearing about COVID. They're tired about hearing about the vaccinations and about masking, but we've got a long ways to go before we get a handle on this. And right now, CDC is projecting another 3 to 5 years of dealing with this. And we keep getting more and more variants that are more and more resistant to the vaccines that we have. And it will continue to grow new variants as more and more people are not getting vaccinated. We see it every year with our influenza vaccinations, that the virus mutates. It's what viruses do. And we have to really work hard to increase our vaccination rates, especially among our kids. Our 12 to 18-year-old group right now, we are in, a measly 30%, 31, 32% of those kids that have been vaccinated. Our 20 to 40-year-olds, the vaccination rates are very low there as well, in the low 30s. With our elder population, we've gotten them used to getting their flu shots every year, and they're very good about coming in. We have very high protection and high vaccination rates amongst our elders. And we need to really focus on getting the younger groups vaccinated. I was visiting with my colleagues in Missoula County yesterday at the health department, and right now they have 3 of the ventilator patients in Missoula that are in their early 20s, very healthy, no underlying medical conditions other than they are not vaccinated. So it's very real, and it's hitting everybody very differently. And some people recover very quickly. Others, for whatever reason, this virus attacks their system a lot more. It's really overloading and overwhelming the entire health system of the country. We're working as hard as we can. We've got hospitals that are short of nurses. We've got the public health departments that are short of nurses. We just, as a community, we all need to work together to do what we can. Get vaccinated, wear our masks, wash our hands, not go out in large groups anymore. We got a little lax over the summertime, but this Delta virus is very contagious, and it is attacking even those who are vaccinated, and they don't tend to get quite as sick, but those that do have underlying medical conditions, even if they are vaccinated, can get very sick. So some of the things that we have going on, we continue to do COVID vaccinations at, Tribal Health Pharmacy in Polson and St. Ignatius. We've got, now we've got our booster COVID clinics popping up in the communities. We'll be, at Quatucknuck and at, down in Arley, I'm sorry. So the COVID boosters, if you're over 65 and you had the Pfizer vaccine more than 6 months ago, please come get the booster, get signed up. If you're between 50 to 64 with high risk medical conditions, or between 18 and 49 at risk of having severe disease because of those medical conditions, it can be cancer, diabetes, even pregnancy. If you're a smoker, either current or former, substance use disorder, just any of those medical conditions, you are eligible to get a COVID booster. And, one of the other things that we are recommending very strongly, again, is getting your flu vaccine. We are doing our mass flu clinic next Wednesday at SKC parking lot. We will be there all day. Come get your flu vaccine. Normally when we have, bad flu seasons, hospitals get overrun by pneumonia patients from influenza. And, so if we have anywhere near normal flu season with the vaccine, without people being vaccinated for flu and leading to pneumonia, we're really going to overload the system, and there probably won't be a bed available for those people who need to be hospitalized. So, are my plea, I've been dealing with this for 18 going on 19 months right now, is, please get vaccinated. Please wear your mask. Please think about your neighbors. Think about your family members. You may be healthy and not get sick, not get very sick, but the elder in your home may not respond the same way. We've had so many tribal deaths in our small community. We just don't want to lose anybody else. So please do what you can, get vaccinated, wear your mask, make sure your family is vaccinated, make sure your family wears your mask. But thank you. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Tammy. Martin has a question.
Thank you, Tammy. I guess the question is about the Moderna vaccine and the booster. Is that coming up sooner than later?
Sorry, I lost you for a minute. So Moderna and Johnson & Johnson, they have just presented their information for booster to the FDA. And so hopefully within the next, month or so, we will, we'll get FDA approval for that booster for Moderna and for Johnson & Johnson. But at this point right now, it is just Pfizer that they are doing the boosters for. And so, initially, all we were getting was the Moderna vaccine. So we have a large number of our elders who received that Moderna vaccine. And so, as soon as we get that authorization to start doing the Moderna booster, we'll be getting everybody, that got the initial, first round of vaccinations, getting them their boosters. Pfizer has also presented their clinical information for the 5 to 12-year-olds to the FDA. And so, we are hopeful that, by the end of October, they will make a ruling to open up the vaccinations to the 5 to 12-year-old group. So they're moving on this as quickly as they can because they know how important it is to get the vaccinations out there, to get the boosters out there, to try to slow this Delta run down. So, I meet with the state regularly. We have conference calls every week where we get updated on what's happening on the CDC level. And then if we have other meetings that come, they come up as needed. And so, as soon as we get the authorization for that, we will be, having the Moderna vaccinations and Johnson & Johnson boosters at those events. We will also at our mass flu clinic, we also will have COVID vaccinations available. So if you're wanting to get both, you can get both on the same day, during the drive-through. So we're trying to make it as easy as we can for people to get vaccinated. And we just need people to step up and get the shot in their arm.
Thank you, Tammy. So can you repeat where people can get tested and where people can get vaccinated?
Yeah, so we have vaccinations every day from 8 a.m. to about 4:30 or 5 in the afternoon at both St. Ignatius Pharmacy and Polson Tribal Health Pharmacy. And we've got different clinics popping up. I know Arlee, we will be doing booster clinics on Mondays and Thursdays at the community center. And we will be doing vaccination clinics, I believe it's at Quatechnik, on Tuesdays and Wednesdays for those booster doses. And they can go to Montana Ready clinic.gov, I believe is what the email or what the web address is, and get registered. If you go to the tribal health webpage, there is a link there to where they can get signed up to get those booster vaccinations. And we do have, if somebody is wanting to get a regular COVID vaccination at those clinics, they can get signed up there as well. So we will have those clinics going, 4 days a week in addition to the pharmacies. And as far as testing goes, we do have our SKC testing site. They've had to shorten their hours a little bit this week because, staff have been impacted by COVID themselves. And so they've not been running all day. They've been just having testing available in the mornings. The Ronan Tribal Health has been picking up a lot of the patient overflow. And so if you call the Ronan Tribal Health 676-0137, usually there is somebody available there every day to do testing if you can't get in. We also have testing available that Tribal Health covers through St. Luke's and through St. Joe's. For those of us on the south end, they also cover at Grant Creek Family Medicine in Missoula. And, when we've got these pop-up clinics that come out, we don't get a whole lot of advertisement time, but, just usually word of mouth. I've done, well, yesterday we had 74 come through our Lee testing, and that was just basically advertising through the schools because we were trying to target our school population because we've had such a big outbreak in our schools. And, so we've got, we had an original large quantity of the at-home test kits that came in, but everybody in the country wants these tests right now. And so they're very hard to come by. We do have a few available. We've tried to limit on, who we're giving that to. If people are able to come into us to be tested, we would rather them come to get tested through Tribal Health rather than do the at-home test where we have to do a confirmation test as well. So, but we do have those. If people are not able to come into the clinic, we do have some at-home tests that are available at all of our Tribal Health facilities.
Thank you, Tammy. I just got notice this morning that Cora Newman is delivering 200 PCR tests, 2 boxes of masks and face shields to Tribal Health on Monday. So I had reached out to Jonathan to see what our needs were, and this is how Cora responded. So thank you, Cora Newman.
Okay, that will be great and helpful to have those available. We do have a lot of, the Binax test, the Binax test that we do in the office. We have plenty of the Abbott ID that the clinic is using, and we do have lots of state test capabilities where we swab and send it in. It's taking a little bit longer for lab results to come back. Last week alone, the state did, they had 54,000 tests that were run last week alone, which was about 20,000 higher than any other week previous throughout the whole pandemic. So testing is increasing everywhere, which, we need to see. They're doing their best right now. It's usually about 3 to 5 days if the test gets sent out to a lab outside of the state. If it's a state lab, if it's a test that's done at the state, we're getting those back usually in about 2 days. So we're still getting, a good response and good turnaround time. Please get tested if you're having symptoms. We don't want people to be at work if they're sick. We want you to get tested. It's cold and flu season. And, so there's viruses that are around that are not COVID, that are not influenza, that are just a common cold that have very similar symptoms to COVID. So, it's real important to get tested. What we had found with the schools was a lot of the parents were sending the kids to school because they just had a head cold. They had a runny nose, they had, some sinus congestion, but they weren't running a fever. They weren't, having a lot of the other symptoms. It was just the runny nose and head congestion. And so they've been at school, and we're at school for, this entire time. And then finally went in to seek medical care because the symptoms were lasting so long. And then they tested positive and had been at school their entire infectious period and spread that throughout to a lot of their classmates. And so, we're just slowly trying to get a handle on all of this and try to slow things down within the school systems. And, the state does offer grant funding for the schools to so that they can get their own staff person to do the testing. They will send the test directly to the schools. The schools submit directly back to the state lab if they need a confirmation. They do the rapid Binax that we have as well. And so, we're trying to encourage a lot of the schools to get signed up for this. There's grant funding for it. And it's a great way to, be able to test your students who come in with very mild symptoms and then know for sure before they're participating in regular classroom activities, whether they are positive or not. And so we're really encouraging the schools to do that and take advantage of that program. So.
Tell me one more time. Can you tell us what time the SKC flu clinic is on Wednesday?
Yes, we're gonna, I believe, I haven't been a big part of the planning this year because of the number of investigations I've been having to do, but we typically start at 10 in the morning and go till about 7 at night. The advertisement is in the Charcusa. It's been on the radio. But we usually, start getting set up about 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning and get everything laid out. And then, if we're ready to go, we may start earlier. We are offering a $15 gas card for, the first 500 people who come to get their flu shots. So we do have a little incentive to try to get people to come. But, we are ready to get everybody vaccinated against flu. We had a great turnout last year. We did, between the county and us, we had about 850 people that came through our mass flu event. And so it was a great response. And we hope we have this, a similar response on Wednesday. So.
Thank you, Tammy. Martin?
Tammy, I just wanted to, as I always do, thank you guys for everything you do. Especially, knowing you kind of on the outside and knowing how hard you work on this and, the sacrifices you made over the last 2 years have been greatly appreciated. And so just want to make sure we thank you and, make sure that extends to all your staff and just anyone, even with Lake County. I know their staff are in a very difficult situation. And, politics over science is winning at times. And so I think that, we need to be cognizant of that. And I don't know if you saw, but I put up last year's numbers and I'll put them up again versus this year's numbers. I hope I captured all the information you told me today. I put just there. And if you just look at those numbers compared to a year ago today, well, not exactly. Maybe that will sink in. Maybe that will help people realize where we're at and, where we're potentially going. And, let's do everything we can to support, our tribal health, our public health workers, and do what we need to. It's a topic that people just love to argue about right now. And, like I was saying earlier, there's no one thing that's going to prevent you from getting COVID and you spreading it. But the combination of all these things help prevent the spread. And that's what we're trying to do right now. And that's the one thing that people really get on, really focus on, is that you can get COVID while you have a vaccine. And I'm like, yes, but it's the difference between death, possibly being in a hospital bed on a ventilator. And so I know that, I just want to make sure that, I echo everything that you guys are saying as well. And I'll do that, as long as we have to. The other thing is I can come probably maybe help with the vaccine or the flu shot clinic. So let me know if you guys need more manpower. So thank you.
Thanks, Martin.
Thanks, Martin. Thanks, Tammy. Yes, we echo all of those things as a full council. So we appreciate the work that you do. Hang in there.
Thank you.
Okay. So with that, we will shift gears to the legal department. We have Dan Decker and Mary Price to talk about the registration of tribal water uses under the compact and the unitary management organization. So I'll turn it over to Dan and Mary. Morning.
Morning, Madam Chair, members of the council. So, so some big news here on the water rights front for the tribes. So just 2 weeks ago, on September 17th, the Secretary of Interior, Deb Haaland, signed and executed the CSKT Water Rights Settlement, also known as the Montana Water Rights Settlement Act. And just a brief overview for those who might not necessarily have been keeping up with the CSKT settlement. So after many years of negotiations, the state of Montana, through the state legislature, passed the CSKT Water Compact in April of 2015. It was then signed by then Governor Bullock in April of 2015. From that point, it moved on to Congress, where after a couple of different introductions by the Montana delegation in Congress, Congress passed the Montana Water Rights Settlement Act on December 21st of last year, and then President Trump signed that into law on December 27th of last year. A couple days after that, the CSKT Tribal Council then also passed and ratified the two components of the Settlement Act, which are the Compact, which defines what the tribe's water rights are pursuant to the settlement, and also the Unitary Management Ordinance, or the Law of Administration. And that UMO, or Law of Administration, will be the governing law that will administer water rights here on the reservation and moving forward. And so when Secretary Haaland signed the Settlement Act into law just 2 weeks ago, that triggered a lot of things for the tribes and residents of the reservation. This includes the activation of the Unitary Management Ordinance, which will govern all water rights on the reservation moving forward. That includes new appropriations of new water rights, and also that law will govern changes of water rights on the reservation. And the body that's going to implement and enforce the ordinance will be a water management board. That water management board will be made up of 2 individuals selected by the tribal council, 2 members selected by the governor of the state of Montana, and then a 5th individual will be determined from those 4 individuals identified earlier. There also will be a 6th non-voting member selected by the United States. So with the effective date of the compact, the 3 parties to the settlement, the tribes, the state of Montana, the United States, have 180 days to establish this water management board. And so I know recently the tribes, they have advertised their 2 positions for the board. There are criteria laid out in the advertisement, and this criteria is also laid out in the ordinance itself. So I know the tribes and the council are actively looking to fill those 2 positions, and I'm sure the state is at this point as well. So for any of the individuals out there that are interested or feel they meet the qualifications, I believe we all would encourage those individuals to apply. There also are many other jobs that the Tribal Natural Resources staff have advertised, and this will also move along with implementation of the compact. So there are a lot of jobs out there advertised, and I know the Tribal Natural Resources staff and the tribes in general would encourage those folks out there in the public to apply for these jobs if they meet the qualifications. Another trigger that happened as a result of the effective date and signing by Secretary Haaland is there also is a process in the Montana Water Court where the 3 parties to the settlement have 180 days to file what's known as a motion for a preliminary water decree. And so what the Montana Water Court will do is once a preliminary decree is issued, this will lay out an objections period for those that may still object to the compact. And then once the objections are done and dealt with, the Water Court will issue a final decree, which will finalize the tribe's water rights. Obviously, some individuals, they could appeal that after a final decree is issued, but those are just next steps in the process that the 3 parties to the settlement will have to continue moving forward with. And the last trigger from the effective date is water rights registration. And this will include a lot of the residents under reservation will need to look at if they need to file their rights with the Unitary Management Board. And this will also include the tribes and the tribal membership. So at this point, Madam Chair, I'd like to turn it over to Mary Price, who's going to give us some more detail about what that means for the tribes and the tribal membership as far as registering water rights. Mary?
Yeah, thank you, Dan. And good morning, everybody. I'm just trying to change my mental, my mindset right now after hearing that rather sobering report from Tammy Matt. So I'm trying to make a mental shift here. But again, good morning to everybody. So as Dan mentioned, the compact was signed by the Secretary on September 17th of 21. And with that signing, the compact has now taken effect. And among the many things that Dan talked about, one of those is that under the Tribes Water Rights Compact, there is a provision that provides 5 years for the tribes, tribal members and allottees to register what is called existing uses of the tribal water right. And an existing use of the tribal water right is a use of on-reservation surface water or groundwater that is in existence by the compact effective date of September 17th, 21, and that was not otherwise quantified in the compact. So for example, anything that is quantified in the compact, such as the tribe's in-stream flow or the FIP water right, wetlands, high mountain lakes, Flathead Lake, and some of those other water uses are not included under this provision. They've already been quantified and are now part of the tribal water right. So what we're talking about here means that these are other uses of on-reservation water that were not included. But now that there's 5 years to register these uses, and they will become part of the tribe's water right with an 1855 priority date. So what are these existing uses? For example, they would include stock water, ponds, springs, or wells, for example, on tribal range units or ag lands, and potentially individual tribal members that have wells for stock water purposes. It includes, existing uses includes the very large number of wells that have been developed by the Housing Authority over the years that serve tribal homes and tribal businesses. There are approximately 3,000 of these. It includes the tribal community wells that serve the tribal housing areas, that serve multiple tribal housing units within a given area. It includes wells that serve tribal facilities, such as the Pablo Complex, the other tribal buildings around the reservation, and tribal enterprises. It also includes, this is specifically included in the compact, it includes historically irrigated trust lands that are not served by the Flathead Indian Irrigation Project. And these historically irrigated trust lands were mapped and are included in Appendix 6 of the compact, but they were the water that the irrigation water use was not quantified. So we would be registering those. It also could include some of the tribe's fish and wildlife mitigation lands, the Kerr and Arco mitigation parcels, for example. A lot of those areas were included in the compact under the wetland water right, but that the mapping that was used to identify wetlands, restored wetlands on those lands was done in 2015. And so it is possible that since then new wetlands have been restored or other fish and wildlife water uses have been developed that were not captured by the compact. And so we're going to go back and take a second look at those lands as well. And it can include other uses that we're just not aware of, but we're going to do a very thorough inventory to make sure that we capture all these uses. So how is this going to occur? Well, the legal department will be will register all these existing uses, will be the lead department. We've been preparing for some weeks now, or months actually, in anticipation of the secretary signing the compact to get ready to start the process. We're putting together a work plan and our internal procedures for quantifying these water rights. You know, we'll have a guidance document that lays out how the flow rate, volumes, and all these various elements of these existing uses will be quantified. The reason, part of the purpose for this procedures document is that the unitary administration ordinance that the council adopted as ordinance 111A lays out the requirements for registering these uses, the elements of these existing uses that have to be described, and the process for filing these registrations with the Water Management Board. And so we will have to comply with the ordinance that has now come into effect. So we've been working on that for some weeks now. We're also, the legal department is also in the process of developing what we are calling the Tribal Water Right, pardon me, Registration Office. And this office would interface with tribal members who, you know, and would provide guidance and assistance to tribal members who wish to register an existing use as part of the tribal water right. And so the legal department is engaged with, we're writing position descriptions for tribal water rights registration specialists. It would require staff to interface with the tribal public to guide and assist them through this registration process. We're getting physical office space, IT support, registration forms, everything that needs to be, is required for assisting tribal members with registering their existing use. So that process is ongoing. We're making good progress. I do want to mention that in addition to this process for registering an existing use of the tribal water right, the compact and the ordinance also allows for water users on the Flathead Reservation to register any unrecorded state law-based existing uses. And so what does that mean? Well, that means that this would include uses that they're primarily wells for domestic and stock water uses that under state law were exempt from filing, or that due to the CSKT line of court decisions, and those decisions prohibited the state from issuing any water permits on the Flathead Reservation until the water compact was settled. So a lot of these groundwater developments that continued, however, and certificates of completion were filed with the DNRC. The DNRC suspended processing those completion notices, but under the compact, these completions and any that were not recorded can now be recorded with the state. That was provided in the compact. There is a process for doing that laid out in the unitary management ordinance. And that has also come into effect upon the compact effective date. And very soon the state will be mailing a public notice to over 12,000 landowners that are listed in the Department of Revenue Property Tax database, notifying these landowners that they have 180 days to register these state law-based existing uses if they have not already done so. So that will be, so that means that tribal members who, for example, own fee lands will likely be receiving this public notice from the DNRC. One thing that is very important for the tribal membership to be aware of is that they do have the option of either registering their existing use, most likely a domestic or stock water well, either with as a state law-based water right with the state of Montana, or they can register it as part of the tribal water right through the process that I just briefly walked through. One thing for the tribal membership to consider when making that decision is that if they choose to register their existing use as part of the tribal water right, it would have an 1855 priority date versus a much more junior priority date under the state law-based system. So that's an important consideration to think about. Another point about this public notice that the DNRC is going to be sending out is the tribe's compact implementation team worked with DNRC to include language in there letting the tribal public who may receive this know that they have this option and that to register their use as a tribal water right. And there's also contact information included if they want to learn more about it. The contacts listed are Seth Makepeace with the Natural Resources Department and myself with the Legal Department. So if anybody who receives this notice has questions, please don't hesitate to call and we can provide them with more information. So in a nutshell, that is the process that started on September 17th, and that the tribes have 5 years to complete. So meaning it has to be completed by September 17th of 2026. So that's the process in a nutshell.
Okay, so no procrastination here. We got 5 years, but let's do it now. Let's flood Seth and Mary's phone with those questions. Is there any questions from council? I'm sure you're going to get a lot of phone calls now or emails. So
yeah, we're gearing up for that.
So yeah, I think that we'll probably try to distribute that information through the Charcusta. Bernie's here reporting, and also maybe through our district meetings in the next few months. So thank you guys for that update.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you, Legal, for your never-ending work. Okay, next up we have Leonard Gray with the Bison Range update.
Hello, everybody. It's going to be me, Whisper Camel Means, instead of Leonard Gray. He was unable to attend. He's doing some activities out at the range today. And so I'm going to give the Bison Range update and just kind of let people know what we have going on out there. We are gearing up for the bison capture, which will occur next week. We've been doing a lot of preparation with the CSKT staff as well as the Fish and Wildlife Service staff. We've been making sure we have everything planned out and the bison are coming down to the corrals and everything's going to be safe and successful for that operation. We've been considering this a training and transition year. So unfortunately for the public, the bison capture will not be open to the public. We have a lot of staff on hand trying to do the training, trying to get everybody up to speed on how to safely and successfully do the bison capture. And one of the concepts that the Fish and Wildlife Service had instituted a few years ago, and we are definitely going to continue, is the idea of a low stress bison capture. And so we have a facilitator coming in to do a training with us that has been working with the service for the past few years. And if you had been at the roundup in the past where it was a little bit loud and a little bit dusty and just kind of more Wild Westy, the new system is really very quiet and calm. Flags are used to move bison rather than a prod or a loud bell. So the capture is going to look really different than some people might remember, and our staff are very excited to get trained up on that and be able to work in that system of just a lot less stress and more reciprocity with the bison. We have had a really good working relationship with the biological staff, all of their technicians and the biologists. We've been really fortunate in how well everybody's worked together for this transition of that part of the bison range transfer. Shannon Claremont is our bison range supervisory biologist. So he'll be the head wildlife biologist down there, and he's been doing a lot of work to get trained up. The entire wildlife staff will be down there next week to start to integrate into the capture operations. The wildlife management program and me as the wildlife program manager are in charge of the biological activities there. And as I've been wrapping my brain around managing wildlife on the reservation and incorporating the bison range, I really want to foster a feeling of there is a fence physically, but that the bison range is part of the rest of the reservation and how we manage and how we think about the animals that are there. So it really, for me, I want to blur that line and be able to have staff that are stationed there, but also have wildlife staff that can come on and off and really work together as a whole unit and really manage it holistically in that term. So we definitely have that melding of our staff. We just completed the the bison surplus sale. We had a closed bid system where we put those out for advertisement. People sent back the bids. We opened those Wednesday and put them into a computer program, and it put everything, printed up some nice reports for us about who won them. The process went pretty smoothly. We were on a really short time frame because we were just trying to learn and figure out how to sell those bison in a profitable manner, but also to get them off the range, because the animals that are selected for the surplus are animals that are genetically most related to other members of the herd. So every time there's a bison capture, the younger ones are tested for their genetics, and all that gets put into a program so that they can look at the relatedness. If those surplus animals stay on the range, then if they breed with other bison there, then it will have the potential to degrade the genetic variability over time, and it will make the bison herd less genetically diverse. I know that's a lot of using the word genetic, but it matters when we're talking about a population that is stuck within a fence. They don't have an opportunity to breed with other individuals. So we really, as a management tool, need to keep that really in check so that the bison herd can stay healthy and not have inbreeding effects. So we were able to sell the 22 bison that we were looking to sell. We had 27 total that needed to come off, and per the tribal council decision, we donated 5 of those bison to the Rocky Boy tribe, who are going to be picking them up at the end of the month. They will be put into a production herd that they are starting over there with seed bison, also from the American Prairie Reserve. And so I believe they'll be sending us out some invitations to come. So that will be bison from the Prairie Reserve and the Bison Range coming together to help them as a tribe build their herd up. Our sale brought in $32,251. So that money will go back into the operational fund for the range, and that will be for salaries and equipment and range management and all of those activities that occur. As we're looking at the range and trying to look at the whole grass situation and range condition, this year was a really tough year for plants. And as people know that are trying to buy hay and alfalfa and feed, grass took a beating with the drought and the really high temperatures. And the bison range was no different. We do not supplemental feed out there, and we're hoping to keep that up. But with the really high numbers of elk that are out there that also eat the same thing that the bison do, and the fact that it was so dry and hot, there is a need to really focus on reducing the elk numbers out there just to keep that range condition in check and productive enough for the bison herd, while also still having some elk on the site as well. Weeds are another issue. Ventonata is the African wiregrass that really is a problem because it takes over and no wildlife like to eat it. It has very sticky seeds that get into their throats and cause issues in their teeth and mouths. So animals tend to avoid it. And it's a challenge to eliminate. We're dealing with that on our wildlife habitat mitigation lands across the reservation. It really kind of just snuck in, looks very similar to cheatgrass, but is different phonetically in some ways. So it's just one that everybody's learning how to get rid of in an effective manner. So those are things that we really need to consider as we're managing the wild animals out there. I also wanted to let people know that the Red Sleep Drive will be closed next week, at least Monday through Wednesday. And that is because we will be doing the bison capture, and where the animals are held at the top of the hill behind the corrals, the road comes right there near them. And if people are parked on that road or taking pictures, it can make those animals uncomfortable, and they can start to break the fences or get really jumpy inside of there. So the service in the past has closed Red Sleep Drive during the bison capture. We are planning to do the same. So next Monday through Wednesday for sure, we will open that back up as soon as we are done. We are leaving Thursday open as a potential day to finish up if we can't get through all of them before that day. So just for people to be aware that Monday through Wednesday that will be closed. The Prairie Drive will still be open. So that is the road that everybody wants to come in and see the deer rut and the elk rut. They're still able to drive down on that lower road. They just won't be able to come up to the corrals to the bison capture. It's really just a safety factor for everybody and to make the capture go smooth. I talked with Stephanie Gillen about things that are happening with the visitor center. She said that the signs are continuing to be upgraded and changed out across the range and at the visitor center. That she and David Rockwell are both almost finished working with the culture committees to get the signs and the information for the museum updated so that those are so that the stories in the museum reflect the culture here, the language here, and the actual story and the names of the people that were part of the history of the animals that came from Flatati and Atatitse here to the reservation, and part of the whole history of it, which is quite remarkable and interesting. Her gift shop is almost ready to open. That will hopefully be open in the next month. and that she is so thankful for council's support on those two really big projects, which was converting over that the museum and turning the little theater area in the visitor center into a gift shop so that we could sell things that are related to outdoor education as well as crafts from local vendors and artisans. And so everybody's really excited to see that shop open. Our maintenance staff, Willie Stevens and his crew, have been working really hard out there. They are driving around and checking the fences, letting us know if there's injured or dead bison, which occur occasionally out on the range. Their staff are riding horses and bringing the bison down to the corral. They have been really good at what they're doing and helping the biological staff to get ready for the capture. And I think yesterday they even ran some bull bison through the facility just to give it a little test, and everything was working good and everybody was working well together. So we're really excited about those guys. There is a new roof being put on the visitor center. That is part of the deferred maintenance that the Fish and Wildlife Service are covering. And a new shop is being constructed, and that is also deferred maintenance from Fish and Wildlife Service. So those are projects they had in the hopper, and those are just now getting completed. And then lastly, but not least, is Leonard Gray, our refuge manager out there, is really doing a good job at keeping an eye on things, keeping the staff working well. Antoine Paul and Miranda DePoe are out at the visitor center with their staff, try to get the IT going. We still have a little bit of an issue with that kind of tech stuff because the hill of the Bison Range blocks any cell service and the fiber optic wires are not in place. So we're still trying to get that kind of high tech stuff up to speed. And I think that's the big part of my report on what's happening out at the Bison Range. Things are going well and we're doing pretty well. Oh, lastly, sorry, we had one more. Full transition is planned for January 1st. So that would be the tribal staff would take over full management of the Bison Range as of January 1st, 2022.
Thank you, Whisper. Oh, that was a great report. So good luck with the bison capture and low stress on those animals. So
thanks.
Is there any questions from council? Well, we look forward to that full transition. I know we talked about giving notice to the Fish and Wildlife Service within the time period that's required. So that's next up on our list, our to-do list. So thank you, Whisper. Sounds like you guys have a great staff up. You guys are doing a good job. So keep it up. We appreciate it. Thank you. Any closing comments before we adjourn? Martin?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm gonna keep doing this until we get through this. You know, wear your mask, get vaccinated, avoid crowds. If you do go into crowds, super mask, double mask. I don't know any other way to express it. You know, help save your own life and get a vaccine. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. With that, there a motion to adjourn? Motion by Sharma. See everyone next week.
Mike's on.
My mic.